Hey folks, welcome back. So recently, I had the flu, and I'm still kind of getting over it, so sorry if I sound a little weird. But while I was incapacitated, I watched a couple of old movies. One of which was 1977's The White Buffalo, starring Charles Bronson. One of those movies I've always loved. My granddad used to love it, and I used to watch it all the time. The other was a batshit crazy movie from the year I was born, 1978. Strangely enough, I didn't see this movie for the first time until I was either a teenager or a preteen. I can't remember exactly. But of all people, my mother encouraged me to watch this movie. It was coming on TV one day. She's like, hey, I remember that movie. You should watch it. And I remember being so pleasantly surprised. And have I ever mentioned that my mom has awesome taste in movies? Today's movie is called
The Manitou.
So let me start out by saying The Manitou is one of those movies you can't really talk about without spoiling it. So if for some reason you don't want to be spoiled by a 47-year-old movie, by all means, go watch it. It's available for free, and I believe it was on Tubi, or it was one of those other free apps, but it is available for free on streaming, so definitely give it a watch. It's not a very long movie. I think it's about an hour and 40 minutes or so. Definitely check it out. But if you don't care about spoilers, here we go. The film starts out with a woman named Karen getting an exam and an x-ray for a lump on the back of her neck. From the x-rays, you can tell there's something definitely strange about this lump, and the doctors seem to be stumped. Karen even tells them that the lump appears to move. It feels like it's turning over to get comfortable. The doctors aren't sure if it's a cancerous tumor, so they schedule Karen for surgery. Karen talks to her boyfriend, played by Tony Curtis, who is playing a phony psychic in this movie, which honestly makes him a really interesting character because he's not the most trustworthy person to begin with, but he ends up being the person that cares about her the most and tries to do everything he can to help her out. Later that evening, Harry hears Karen chanting in her sleep.
Witchy. Salatu.
The next day on the way to the hospital, he asks her about it, but she has no recollection of the chant. He drops her off for the operation and everything seems to be going normal until the doctor's ready to make the incision, and Karen, under anesthesia, starts chanting again. Suddenly the doctor turns the scalpel on his own hand, cutting his wrist. He's tackled by the other doctors. The operation is canceled. In the meantime, over at Harry's place, he's doing one of his phony psychic readings for one of his regular customers, when she begins to chant and act very strange. Eventually she leaves his apartment, floats down the hallway, and hurls herself down the stairs, dying in the process. Harry finds out about the complication in Karen's surgery and tries to explain to the doctor that he believes she might be in danger. He tries to tell the doctor about what happened to his client. He thinks both of those incidents are related. Of course, the doctor thinks he's crazy. Harry's becoming desperate for answers, so he goes to visit some old psychic friends of his to see if they can find out anything about what's happening. Eventually, they suggest a seance. They perform the seance, and a spirit takes over one of the psychics, and then reveals itself in the table, in a pretty decent effect, honestly. As they end the seance, the window explodes and a lightning bolt breaks the table in half. They realize they're dealing with an extremely powerful entity, and they're going to need some more help. After doing some more research, they realize they're going to need an expert on Native American spirits. So they decide to go visit Dr. Snow, played by Burgess Meredith. At first, Dr. Snow is somewhat reluctant to try to help because he felt like the things he wrote about in his book were all legend and weren't based in reality. But eventually he does tell them they would need to find a Native American medicine man who not only had the power to stop the entity, but would be willing to risk his own life to do it. In the meantime, the lump on Karen's back has gotten much bigger. Doctors attempt to operate again, and the entity takes over the laser and it tries to zap everyone in the room, maximum overdrive style. So Harry takes a road trip to try to find a medicine man that can help Karen. He eventually finds John Singing Rock, who's very reluctant to try to help Harry, but eventually talks him into it. Harry and John go back to San Francisco, and John Singing Rock gets right to work. He's worried that Karen doesn't have very long. He also feels that if his magic is powerful enough, he'll be able to defeat the spirit and save Karen. But John also warns Harry that if his magic doesn't hold the spirit, he will escape and there's no hope for anyone. From this point, the movie goes from pretty good, a little weird, a little kooky, to straight up bad shit. Not long after, the spirit, whose name is Miss Misquamacus, finally emerges. As it turns out, Miss Misquamacus is a legendary medicine man who had the power to reincarnate himself over and over again, and each time he does, he becomes more powerful. Now, when I tell you the end of this movie is batshit, I really mean it. John and Miscomachus battle each other, but John realized that Miscomachus has become too powerful. They end up using the spirit of the machines in the building, the computers, to focus energy to defeat Miscomachus. Now, this is explained in the movie. I don't even feel like explaining it here. You honestly need to watch it to understand this. Just know that when you see it, you're going to say to yourself, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen. I mean, Miscomachus is floating in space. Karen is naked and shoots lasers from her hands. There's a giant lizard ghost that bites a doctor. This movie's insane. But I gotta say, Mom knew how to pick them, because I thoroughly enjoyed this movie the first time I watched it and when I rewatched it for this review. Like, I honestly thought that, okay, I'll sit through this. It can't be as good as I remember. And it absolutely was. Like, even my wife was watching it with me. I mean, she thought it was kind of corny, but still, she sat and watched it with me. Anyhow, have you seen Manitou? I can't be the only one, obviously. So let me know in the comments if you've seen it, if you hate it, if you love it, what you remember about it. If it's one of those movies that you remember seeing as a kid, but you had no idea what it was called and I just brought back a great memory, hey, let me know. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.
Storm Manitous, hold Miscomachus, hold him, hold him, hold him!